Well, welcome. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. I'll tell you, this Jehovah Witnessism, I call it Jehovah Witnessism, like Satanism and these other isms. Look, you try not to look for things with this cult, but I just got onto the internet and had a look at the Jehovah Witness news. Jehovah Witnesses ignore Queensland child sexual assault survivor despite national redress scheme. Let's have a look. God, these Jehovah Witnesses. I chase them. I tell them to get. Now, before I start, there is counselling and support for people that have been subject to CSA within the Jehovah Witness movement. We know that it's a serial problem within the cult because 1,006 CSA victims were brought to mind at the Australian Royal Commission, and you can find the Australian Royal Commission on the internet, on YouTube. Just type in Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah Witnesses, and there's stacks of stuff. Here's some counselling support. Honestly, if you're one of these victims, there are people out there that can help you. But it says Jehovah Witnesses ignore. And when I saw these people down at the waterfront last time, I was training on the stand-up paddleboard, and I deliberately come into the beach. I walked up to them and I said, don't worry, I know you've already been instructed to ignore me, but let me warn you, I'm a member of this community, and if you're going to bring your horrible attitude into this community and start picking on people and saying they're mentally diseased and this kind of thing, I'll report you to the police. You're on notice. You don't have the theological answers that people are looking for. You're bringing out propaganda. Keep your cult, preferably, out of the community. And I went off. They never said it. That was very rude people. And they will ignore you if they choose to, even though they're making out they're coming into the community to do good. They'll sit there and just ignore you. Oh, they're horrible. Their attitude is horrible. Disgraceful. Really, really shocking. And, you know, the conflict is, right, these people are nice people. This is what you get. Oh, these people are nice people. Well, they probably are, but they're in a cult. Now, Hitler could have been a nice bloke, but he was a murderer. There's a lot of nice people that do bad things. This is what you've got to get through. 9 times out of 10 people that can get convicted for crime are nice people on the surface. And that's no different for cult members. Oh, they're nice on the surface, but if they're part of a bank robbery, they got to do the time. If people are part of a cult and they're hiding child sexual abuse, predators, pedophiles, all the rest of it, they need to be treated as criminals. Now you might say, well, not all Jehovah Witnesses are hiding pedophiles. Well, that's not the point, is it? There's the blood doctrines, that the whole setup of this business that's got a shop front as a religion is wrong. Their theology is just abusive, but they ignore people, and the Jehovah Witnesses ignored Queensland child sexual assault survivor despite the national redress scheme. Now, 6 decades after reporting her sexual abuse to elders of the religious congregation, that's the Jehovah Witnesses congregation her family attended, Queensland woman Diane Lynn is still waiting to be heard. Miss Lynn was sexually abused for a number of years before she was 5 years old by members of the Jehovah Witnesses. This is a serial problem, like a serial murderer in the cult. She reported the allegations to the organisation multiple times, but no action was taken because they protect pedophiles. If they haven't got 2 witnesses, they'll ignore the claims. And this is the problem. This is the big problem. In August 2020, Ms. Lynn was offered the full extent of compensation under the National Redress Scheme, which was a result of the Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah Witnesses. For the 65-year-old, it was validation, and she hoped to be finally heard. It was one of the most powerful moments in my life. It was validation that someone actually listened and acted for the first time in my life. However, Miss Lynn never anticipated that an initiative designed to help victims of child sexual abuse would become her biggest challenge. It's really trying on your mental, physical, emotional health, the Sunshine Coast-based woman said. It's just as raw as the 5-year-old girl waiting for an answer and waiting for something to be done. Lack of response exacerbates pain. The compensation offer presented to Miss Lynn includes counselling, money and a direct personal response from the institution responsible. The DPR is an opportunity for victims to receive an apology from the institution responsible for their abuse. They won't do this. The Jehovah Witnesses won't do this. No way. Miss Lynn has not yet received her personal response despite contacting the Jehovah Witnesses 3 months ago, a requirement of the compensation offer. This is how horrible this cold is. She said the lack of response caused trauma to resurface and inflicted more pain because the organisation, the Jehovah Witnesses, Watchtower Society, the cult, will not put themselves in a place where they have to take accountability. Every day I check to see if there is a message, and every day I check to see what's going on, and sometimes twice a day before I go to bed as well. Oh no, they'll leave you sitting and waiting. Some nights I slept only 3 hours. I put on weight. It's not pleasant. A spokeswoman from the Department of Social Services said institutions were required by law to provide a personal and direct response. The scheme is responsive to any complaints and feedback from survivors who are having difficulty accessing their direct personal response and will work with the survivor and institution, as a spokesperson said. Well, they'll have a lot of work with the Jehovah Witnesses because they don't take accountability for anything. The scheme interactions with individual survivors and institutions cannot be disclosed to protect the privacy and confidentiality of applicants. The ABC contacted Jehovah Witnesses for comment. Spokesman Tom, I cannot pronounce that, said the law prevented the institution from commenting on individual cases. Oh, that was convenient, wasn't it, considering they don't acknowledge the law or the governments? The National Redress Scheme has received more than 21,500 applications since 2017. In that time, more than 10,000 payments relating to institutions across Australia have been approved, totalling to a sum of $920 million on average at the amount of $87,960. Brisbane-based organisation No More, an independent and free legal service for survivors of child sexual abuse, received 23,000 calls for help just last year. Principal lawyer Simon Bruck said that demand was bolstered by the NRS, National Redress Scheme. People can call and ask for advice about childhood sexual abuse that has occurred and what compensation or redress options might apply to them, Mr. Bruck said. He said they also support survivors throughout the emotionally triggering and daunting process with social workers, counsellors and cultural advisors. This is the damage that the Watchtower and Jehovah Witnesses do to people. A lifetime of fighting continues. Miss Lynn said waiting for a personal response was the latest delay in the process after Jehovah Witnesses business, they call it religion, but it's actually a business that teaches false religion, took 3 years to join the scheme. It took them 3 years just to join the redress scheme. It's like they're still trying to look for a loophole to get out of it, Miss Lynn said. It's really important for me to have the religion accountable finally. It's not a religion, it's a false religion. Miss Lynn hopes to use the direct personal response to initiate changes to the institution's policies and procedures. You got no chance, including to abolish the 2-person rule, which means when she was a child, if she reported this abuse, if there wasn't another person to back her up, They will not accept that it's true. They're ignoramuses. They're dangerous. They need to be locked up. There needs to be 2 or more witnesses to the same criminal act of child abuse before the child or young person is believed. That's how horrible this is. That's why there needs to be legal intervention into some of the privacy rules between priests and laity. I want to go to New York to receive the response because it is a New York-based headquarters. It's an American religion made up by an old kook by the name of Charles Taze Russell, who didn't know his theology either, because it is a New York-based headquarters and only they can make the change. An Australian branch can't. If we don't have change, what was the reason for all of this? The Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse recommended in 2017 that the 2-witness rule be removed, but it still remains. That's how stubborn these people are. Jehovah Witnesses spokesman, Mr. P, we'll call him, said the rule did not prevent elders from reporting child sexual abuse to the authorities. Well, why don't they do it? Why don't they do it? That makes him an accessory to the fact. They're very clever with not being accountable. The Bible requirement of 2 witnesses is related solely to a religious determination whether an ecclesiastical judicial committee can be formed to determine whether the accused should be expelled from being one of the Jehovah Witnesses. This is how bent and twisted this organisation is. Criticisms of Jehovah Witnesses' ecclesiastical process are all the more unfounded and unfair. Miss Lynn hopes the changes she's fighting for would prevent other families from experiencing the compounding impacts of child sexual abuse and the toll of paying more than $100,000 for therapy. It would be a life fulfilled, she said, and it would be what I wanted to always to do, to make change to protect children and have children in a safe environment. And that's all that's all children deserve. But I wasn't on the internet. This is my point as well, and I'll put the link to this story in the at the bottom of in the links part of the video. I wasn't on the internet for more than 30 seconds, and bang, the Jehovah Witnesses are in trouble. What's this? The people with purple triangles, originally calling themselves simply Bible students. Jehovah Witnesses came out of the Adventist movement. No, we know all that rubbish. Jehovah Witnesses targeted for their Christian faith. Where's that from? Jehovah Witnesses also then... No, we're not interested in that. Jehovah Witnesses, one of many groups targeted during the war. Local Jehovah's Witnesses to restart door-to-door ministry. Isn't that crazy? I believe that some of these people will start being murdered. People will start murdering them, I reckon. I'm not suggesting they do, but I've just got a bad feeling that there's so many people fed up with them. Jehovah's Witnesses fearful of persecution and conscription. Oh, dear. Oh, God. Oh, no. Just relentless. Norwegian court grants Jehovah's Witnesses request. Volunteers make quick work of new Jehovah. Oh, don't build another one for them. They'll sell it. And I was interested in this. Kingdom Hall sales. Let's just have a look. That was the Taunton thing, wasn't it? A month ago. How do you... Oh, I haven't spelled that right. Kingdom Hall sales. Kingdom Hall sold. Where do you get how do you find out how many of these Kingdom Halls are being sold? jw.org's only going to, they're not going to tell you the other stuff that's going on. I'll leave the video at that. I wasn't on here for less than 15 seconds, and the Jehovah Witnesses, as usual, are up to no good again. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.